if you make a choice every morning, what's the one thing that's important today that'll move my life forward? And you do it. It is amazing in a year how different your life is. But the easy thing is open up, WhatsApp and be in your group chats. No, I'm serious.
Yeah. Welcome to the Genius Talk podcast. I'm your host Atul Raj from the bestemailmarketer.com, and today we have Stephen Puri with us. Stephen, thank you so much for joining.
I hope this is one of the more engaging and more actionable episodes. So glad to be here.
Yep. Okay, so for our listeners who don't know you, can you tell them who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So if you are playing along at home or in your car or at the gym listening to this, here's the thing about me that is somewhat unique. I've been a senior executive at a couple of motion picture studios. I've also raised over $20 million of venture and have run 3 startups, 1 successful exit, 2 failures. And what I do now is I share a lot of the lessons that I learned about how high performers, people at the top of their careers, do that sustainably. And there are a lot of fun anecdotes we can share, but the lessons are pretty clear about like, hey, if you want to be like a rock star, here's some ways to train your brain. And here's some ways we've seen people do it. So there you go.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm curious, what inspired you to start Sukha?
Oh, so the company that I run right now is called the Sukha Company. Sukha, as you know, is Sanskrit for happiness, right? It is a flow state app. It is an app that helps you get into a deep, concentrated state so you can do more in less time. And if you want, we can talk about flow states. I don't know how much your audience. Yeah, okay, let's talk about that. Okay, so for those who know what a flow state is and are experienced with it, congratulations, right? Most people have heard of it recently because it's becoming a very popular concept. And I'll just explain what it is so we all are on equal footing. So there was a Hungarian-American psychologist who said, his name was Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and he said, I have a thesis. If you talk to high performers in different disciplines, like athletes, artists, scientists, inventors, and you talk to them about how they do the thing that makes them great, they talk about this concentrated state they get into, and they talk about it in very similar ways, even though what they do is very different. Michael Jordan playing basketball is different than Picasso painting, which is different than, Steve Jobs running Apple, which is different. So he said, I want to understand what this state is that these high performers, the people that we know from reading the news, what is this state? So he did his research. He met with tons of people. And at the end of it, he wrote a book. And the book is called Flow and is the seminal work on this and is from whence we get the term flow state. And he chose this word. I think this is so great. He said, I named my book Flow because it was the best metaphor for what I found. He said, we are all on the river paddling to move ourselves forward. But if you align your boat with the current, it magnifies your efforts. It carries you forward. You do more in less time. And that is what these high performers have figured out how to do and do it repeatably. And it is a fascinating book. We can talk about what the characteristics are of a flow state. We can talk about how to get into a flow state, how different people use it. But that was it, is he just said, when you talk to these people who are changing the world, they have the state they get into. If I can bring that, sort of like, in Greek mythology, bringing fire down from Mount Olympus and giving it to all the normal humans, he's like, I want to go find this fire and bring it to everyone. And it's amazing. And he was very open. He said, a lot of these high performers have their own name for it. They don't call it flow. Like we were talking about Michael Jordan, the basketball player, right? Mm-hmm. Michael Jordan called it being in the zone. Many athletes call it being in the zone. And he said, there's that great quote where Michael Jordan says, when I'm in the zone, it's just me and the ball. And what he's saying is in his flow state, his concentration comes down so powerfully that it's not about the people in the stands. It's not about the scoreboard. It's not even about the other team, because truly he will win that match if he controls the ball. And there's a great Picasso quote where, again, he doesn't call it a flow state, but he talks about, I stayed up all night. I forgot to eat. I forgot to drink. I was in this deeply concentrated state, but hey, I finished Guernica last night, his huge painting on the horrors of war, right? And it's incredible when Mihai said how similar these different experiences are for inventors and technologists and developers that get into the zone. You often hear with engineers, developers, when I'm in the zone coding, it's 10x. I get so much more done than when I keep getting interrupted. And that's really what I do. Is I read his book. It's inspiring. I experienced a flow state. And I was like, wow, this is kind of magical to feel in control of my day. And then a lot of other smart people have written books on here's how you get into a flow state. We just made a website to help you do it. That's what the Suka company is. The answer to your question is we went, so this kind of music helps you. Having a way to block distractions helps you. Having a way to manage, your priorities and your tasks helps you. We put it in one simple website. So that's what I do. And I love it. We have a community of people around the world who work every day in there, and they're in control of their days. It's really a nice feeling.
Okay, so did you use any kind of science or research when creating Sukha?
Yeah. So if you think about that great Isaac Newton quote about, if I've seen further than others, it's because I stood on the shoulders of giants, right? So
Mhm,
Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist we talked about, he's the person who did the research and named this thing. He said, there's this thing,
mhm,
I'm going to call it a flow state.
mhm.
And these top engineers and athletes and artists and stuff know how to get into it, right? Since that time, because that was about 30 years ago, there have been really smart people who have advanced the research on certain parts of it. So let me give you an example with music. A number of people have said, okay, let's do experiments on what kind of music helps the brain fall into this flow state. And what they found is to get into a flow state, you don't just snap your fingers and say, I'm deeply concentrating. It takes about 15 to 23 minutes,
Mhm.
right? So it's something where
Yeah.
you sort of like sit down, you block your distractions, you start to lose track of time. You're not watching the clock, and you really get into the task and you do great work, like you do your best work. And they said, okay, so the music that helps you get into this concentrated state is usually 60 to 90 beats per minute. So it's not too fast, not too slow.
Mhm.
It's non-vocal, so you're not singing along with, Blackpink or whomever you're into, right? It's ambient background music in certain key signatures. So when we were creating Suka, and we said, hey, how do we make one website that makes this all simple? You don't have to go to like one musical site, one task list thing. How do we just make one website? We read a lot of the research in music. And you remember, I used to be an executive in film. So I have a bunch of friends who are film composers, not Bollywood, but,
Yeah.
back in Hollywood. And I reached out to them. I said, hey, here's what the research shows, like 60 to 90 beats per minute, these key signatures, like non-vocal. Could you write music for that? So we have like 1,000 hours of original music that is all around that research. It's based on that research. And most people love it. I will tell you a funny story though. I'm sure you have some specific interests that are different than your friends. I have some too, right? One of the things we discovered when we launched this, we had a beta, we launched it. We said, oh my God, there's like 1,000 hours. And we put in playlists that were more upbeat. Some were down tempo, some were lo-fi, some were binaural beats.
Mhm.
What is really funny is this. A friend of mine who's a sound mixer for LucasArts, he does like the Star Wars video games.
Okay.
He reached out to me and he said, hey, listen, my son's graduation present from high school.
Mhm.
He said he wanted to go to Nepal. So we just got
Mhm.
back from Nepal. While we were in Kathmandu, one day it poured rain. It just was
Yeah.
like this amazing, lush rain in the Himalayas, right? So
Mhm.
he said, I had some of my recording equipment with me. I recorded 2 hours of rain because it just sounded so cool. He's like, I have no idea what to do with it. Do you want it? And I was like, sure, it's free. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So we quietly, in the list of playlists in Suka, in the website, you can choose your playlist, right? In the list of playlists, we just put a playlist in there that was called Himalayan Dream Rain. And it's just 2 hours of rain in Kathmandu. Can I tell you, it is our third most popular playlist. Is that weird?
Wow.
Right? So, I run the platform so I can see people who are listening to it. I've emailed them when I saw this phenomenon of people discovering it and listening to it every day. I emailed them saying, hey, Atul, can you explain to me? I want to learn, why do you listen to rain when we have 1,000 hours of scientific music, right? But you
Yeah.
listen to rain. And it was so interesting, Atul. I got answers like, listening to rain reminds me when I was young, I would go to my grandmother's house to study, and she lived in the mountains and it would rain. We had a lake house when I was little, and at the lake it would rain. And it was all these associations to when people were young and they were in school and they would do their homework to the rain. And that was a learning. I learn as much from the website as everyone else does. So we've now launched a bunch of what we call naturescapes. If you want to listen to a stream, as if you're on your laptop next to a little burbling screen, you can stream. You can do that. We have the surf. Someone recorded the surf in Cyprus. We have a coffee shop in Vienna, Austria, because some people like working, in coffee shops. So you can listen to the sounds of a coffee shop.
Yeah. By the way, in your app, there is also something like AI assistant, right? Can you talk
Yeah,
about that?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So one of the things, and this is me speaking,
Mhm.
okay? I get very distracted when I'm working by my phone and often like YouTube. YouTube gets me because there'll be some cool video and then some other video they recommend. And you know what I mean? Like, so those what distracts you when you have work to do? What are the things that distract you?
I have nothing. My phone is airplane mode. Okay, here's what happened. Like every day when I go to bed, I put my phone on airplane mode. Next day, 1 p.m., airplane mode off. So,
Okay. So you
yep,
have your whole morning without, that's great.
yep. And I have a YouTube blocker, like which will not going to show anything until unless I search something.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So that is essentially what we built because we wanted to have everything together. So
Yeah.
we said, okay, what is the easiest way when someone's working? We can help them stay off their phone.
Mhm.
This is what we did. In the website in Suka, when you start your day of work, there's a play button right in the middle. Hit play, the music begins, your timer begins, all that, right?
Mhm.
So a QR code pops up and you can tap it with your phone. Put your phone down. If you pick up your phone while you're working, the
Yeah.
smart assistant can tell and will say, "Hey, Atul, like, do you really need to be on your phone right now?" And it just gives you that little nudge. It's almost like having a friend working with you who's like, "Hey, man, come on, like, do you want to get done today or not?" Right?
Yeah.
And same thing with websites. We give you a free Chrome extension, and you could specify exactly which websites distract you. If you open one of those, your smart assistant will say, "Hey, Atul, do you really need to be in YouTube right now?" And it's just a fun way to kind of like keep you on track. So the smart
Yeah.
assistant does stuff like that. It helps you see what you're most productive. Like when
Mhm.
you listen to this playlist Atul, you are your most productive in the morning. But in the afternoon, it seems like this other place is helpful. Or,
Mhm.
hey, on Mondays, you get more tasks done because you do this thing. So it gives you like ways to learn about yourself and how you're productive.
You know what? That is a really great way.
It's pretty fun. I'll tell you, one of the things I'm proud of is people who come to try Suka. In the first day, if they're not interested, they're gone. They never come back. Like they're just, I don't
Mhm.
understand. It's just music player. But the ones who actually do a session on their first day, like they spend an hour and they work, we have a 94% retention rate month over month. Paid
Mhm.
retention. Once you've experienced a flow state and you're like, oh my God, in 2 hours, I did 4 hours of work.
I
You
think
don't want to go back. Like you're like, this is magic. This is how I work every day, get more done.
yeah, exactly. I think there are not nine, I think 5 or 6 kind of like happy hormones released when we go into flow state, right?
Yeah.
And all happen at the same time.
One of the great things about
Mhm.
experiencing yourself is you become self-aware,
Yeah.
and as you become self-aware, you understand what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, what your goals really are. And the reason we created Suka is because I have a belief, I have a thesis, just like Mihai had his thesis about high performers and flow states. I have a thesis that we all have something great inside us. And the question of this lifetime is, are you going to get it out or not? And let's be honest, there are a lot of very powerful companies, and their entire business model is making sure you waste your life.
Yeah. I can
Straight up.
name a ton of them.
Yeah. And you know what? It was 10, 15 years ago, like
Mhm.
Mark Zuckerberg would have to go to the US Congress to testify about what he was doing, and he would say, like, Facebook is just for grandmothers to see like videos of the
Yeah.
grandchildren, stuff like that, right? And he did this whole like, sort of sheepish thing of like, oh no, we're not bad. We're just trying to help, people connect and know each other. That's changed. If you
Yeah.
listen to Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Evan at Snap, they're very clear on their shareholder calls now. They're like, listen, we're paying the top engineers, the top designers, the top behavioral psychologists
Mhm.
great paychecks to steal people's lives. And by the way, next quarter, we're going to use some new techniques to steal
Yes.
more
Yes.
people's lives because that's shareholder value. And it's insane. If Mark Zuckerberg called you up, Atul, and said, hey, that's what I'd like your life, and I'm going to sell it. I'm going to
Yeah.
sell it to these advertisers and I'll keep the money, but I'm going to give you some dancing cat videos.
Mhm.
Is that cool? That sounds ridiculous, right? It sounds
Yeah.
like, oh my
Exactly.
God, I'm not going to give you my life for dancing cat videos, but it's exactly what they're doing.
By the way, do you have any criteria of making friends?
Do you have a criteria of what?
Do you have any criteria of making friends?
Making friends?
Yeah. Do you have any criteria for that?
I think my friends are smart, moral, like they have a moral structure.
Uh-huh.
Most of them are funny, you know? Yeah. They have a dry sense of humor, like a
Yeah.
sarcastic wit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think
Like here.
smart, moral, and I would like to think so, yeah, but moral, smart, and they have a good sense of humor. That's pretty much all
Yeah.
my friends are like that.
Okay. I have one more on that. Like in my life. Guy who don't use social media much. Yeah. So that is one of my criteria, like on the top thing.
That's great. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I really think that nothing get done, nothing worthwhile get done when we spend time on social media.
Yeah. But I just had a child. I don't think you know
Mhm.
this. I just had a son about 2 weeks ago.
Wow,
And
congratulations.
thank you. Super excited. I love him to death. Like amazing. So I think about what has our generation done to create the world for the next generation, right? You and I are going to die, and there's going to be another generation that's going to take over the world, right?
Mhm.
They inherit
Yeah.
this. And what have we done to make the world better for them? Because it's not social media. I hope, my dad was born in Multan, but grew up like in Punjab, right? And I hope that my son's generation looks at social media the way we use it, the way I look at my dad's generation and smoking. Where, my dad has had 3 friends die of lung cancer. He has emphysema. And when you talk to him, you say, Dad, like cigarettes killed your friends. Like they almost killed you. His point of view is, when I was young, when I was coming up, all the movie stars, smoking, the cool, tough guys in the movies are all smoking
Hmm.
cigarettes. The tobacco companies were releasing scientific studies on how healthy tobacco was. He says, you
Yeah.
don't understand. It was a different time.
Yeah.
And I sure hope that your kids and my kids, like they look at us in social media the way I look at my dad's generation with smoking. They're like, how could you watch like Kim Kardashian's advertisement for her underwear brand and think it was content, think it was improving her life in some way? But it gets 15 million likes. She got 15 million likes on an ad
Uh,
for underwear that people watch as if it is helping their life in some way, right? So
well.
I sure hope that, we can move to a world where people are doing something that actually helps
Mhm.
them as opposed to,
Mhm.
you probably know people who are older who talk about what they could have done, but they didn't do it. They scrolled. They double tapped. They were in Instagram. They were in, I know TikTok is not in India right now, but, they spent their lives in there. And then you end up, what, 80 years old, telling people like, oh, I could have started that company. Oh, I could have written a book. Oh, I could have been, a movie director, but you didn't. And you're miserable. You gave your life to Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and, David at Snapchat. And now no one wants to be around you. If you're the guy who's like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that, no one wants to be around you. So it's like, go do something. We made Sukkah for the people who are like, you know what? I refuse to die with the great thing inside me still inside me. I want to have a tool to block the social media, play beautiful music, be part of a community. Like there's a group chat with other people around the world who are all writing blogs and writing books and engineers, developers and designers, and it's an amazing community to be around people who are all doing something with their lives. It inspires you, you know?
Mhm.
Do you have a community around you that inspires you?
Community, like the guys I
Do you have a
interviewed, they
friend group
inspired
or,
me.
excuse me?
The guys I interviewed, they inspired me.
That's fantastic. See? Because you can do something with your life. That's the thing is if you make a choice every morning, what's the one thing that's important today that'll move my life forward? And you do it. It is amazing in a year how different your life is. But the easy thing is open up, WhatsApp and be in your group chats. I'm serious.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
cousins in India, they waste a lot of their time in WhatsApp chats forwarding the same stupid memes to each other, the same stupid jokes, collections of jokes. And I was like, did you found a company? Did you do your coding? Did you write your blog? Did you write your book? No, I spent an hour in WhatsApp, you know, forwarding stuff, forwarding the same group chat stuff that everyone else is forwarding to each other. That's a sad way to waste your life, man, because you don't have another life. You don't get to hit reset and go like, oh, I'm just going to do the last 10 years over. No, you wake up and you're 60, 70, 80 years old. You're like, what did I do? So anyway, but on an upbeat note, today is the first day of the rest of your life. You can make a decision today. Say, you know what? I'm going to lock my phone. I'm going to go into Sukkah, hit play. I'm going to go start writing my book. I'm going to go start coding my app. I'm going to go start creating my company. And then someday, you're wealthier than Ambani, right?
Yep. So for our listeners who want to go and use Sukha, where can they go?
Oh, it's really easy. The website is thesukkah.co for the Sukkah company. So it's TheSukha.co. It's free for 3 days. You can try it all you want. Try today, tomorrow, the next day. The important thing is have something you want to do because the magic is you hit play and then you start writing your blog. You hit play and you start coding. You hit play and you start working your business plan. And when you look up after an hour or two and it's done, it feels magical.
By the way, I'm curious, like when did you first learn about flow state?
Okay, I'm going to tell you a funny story. I experienced a flow state before I knew the words flow state. I live, you asked me, I live in Austin, Texas, right? I was flying to San Francisco, and the next day I was going to meet with my team. And I wanted to, on the flight, I want to kind of like mock up a feature that we could build, right? So I got on the plane, and the captain, it was Alaska Airlines. He said, "Oh, listen, the Wi-Fi is broken. All right, okay, fine." So we take off, and about 15 minutes later, we start to descend. And I thought to myself, something bad has happened. They don't want to scare us, but we're landing like in Dallas, which is, an hour away from here, right? So once we're on the ground, they're going to say, "Oh, the hydraulic system failed. The engine fell off. Something bad happened," right? And I looked down, and 2 hours and 40 minutes had gone by. I had no idea, but my design was done. And I had prepared myself. I don't know if you've done this, Atul, but I thought to myself, oh, when I get to San Francisco, I'll check into the hotel, I'll grab a sandwich in the lobby, I'll go to my room, and I'll finish, work on the designs because it'll take me so much time. In reality, I finished the entire feature in 2 hours and 40 minutes. I called a friend of mine in San Francisco and said, "Hey, I have a free night. Do you want to go have dinner?" I went and have dinner with a friend of mine, and it felt great to be in control of my day. Later, I learned that was a flow state on that flight because the Wi-Fi was out, so there were no texts, no SMS, no WhatsApp, no emails. I couldn't watch YouTube, couldn't do any. That flight helped me understand how Sukha would work. Blocking your distractions, playing music, focusing, and I did great work. In 2 hours and 40 minutes, I did my entire feature. And that was the first time I experienced a flow state.
Okay, so what's your favorite book about flow state?
What's the what?
What's your favorite book about flow state?
By far, Mihai's book, Flow. Mihai, she sent Mihai. I can send you a link to it, right?
Yeah.
It's a fantastic book. And I'll tell you, I also really respect Cal Newport. I met him.
Deep work.
He wrote, deep work and all that. And
Yeah.
he's absolutely right about what he says about it. It's just like, if you want to put a certain amount of discipline in, you get greater results out. And deep work, if you are a leader of a team or you are on a team, the deep work is what moves the team forward. Company wins because they return all their Slack messages. No company wins because all their emails are returned. No one wins for that. The thing you win on is when you go into the staff meeting and someone says, "Oh, yesterday, you know what? I had 2 hours to actually think deeply about our company. And I thought, what if we did this?" And then everyone in the room sort of like turns and listens. And they're like, "My God, that kind of changes the trajectory of our company. Like, that's a fantastic idea." And it's not, I returned my Slacks, I returned my WhatsApp messages, I returned my emails. It is, I was able to go deep. I really thought for 2 hours, I thought deeply about our company. That is how you build an Amazon. That is, how you build a Tesla. That's how you build something of value. It's not just little bits and pieces of work here and there. And so, yeah, Cal Newport's Deep Work would be book number 2.
Yep. I think on that book, I discovered about flow state because somewhere in this book, he mentioned something like we do deep work so that we get into flow state. Something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah. And you know what? There is also something like this mentioned that, what was the guy's name who make Microsoft?
Bill Gates.
Yeah, Bill Gates. Bill Gates built Microsoft, which was approximately $1 billion industry in less than a semester, just because of doing deep work, being in flow state.
Right. And that's it. And that's the thing is, like, anyone listening to this who says, "I want to be the next Bill Gates, the next Steve Jobs, the next Elon Musk, the next, Jeff Bezos, whatever," you do it by doing deep work. And we built a tool to get you into deep work. That is what I'm passionate about. Helping people do the great things that move the world forward and hopefully make them rich at the same time. There's nothing wrong with being wealthy. It's nice.
Yes. Okay, Steven, is there anything else that you would like to share?
No, it was very gracious of you to reach out and invite me on. I hope this is helpful for anyone who's listening. Yeah, I hope that someone listening goes and does something great. That would be an amazing thing. If someone's like, "Wow, I was inspired by this talk," to go do the thing and they build the next Amazon,
Yeah.
So thank you for having me. This is great. And thank you, everyone who's listening at this point. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Steven. Thank you so much for joining us. And it was really fun chatting with you.
That was great. Bye, everyone.